Hey, Mick.
Hey, Bo.
Hey, Kenzie.
Hey.
Hey, you guys ever heard this word "groak" before?
Depends on context, but not really. No.
So here we are, our first podcast ever. Obsolete Vernacular is the title. We're inviting people to come listen. We're going to tell stories. We're going to have a good time. We're just three old buddies hanging out. But we're going to kick off every episode with an obsolete word, an obsolete vernacular, if you will. So groak is to silently watch someone while they're eating, hoping to be invited to join them.
Like, okay.
It's like my dog every meal that I've ever had.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to imagine a scenario where I'm sitting watching someone else eat in the hopes that they would invite me to eat along with them without me just doing so without provocation.
Well, my thing is, why did they ever need a word for that? Like, what was life like where they were like, man, that guy's just groaking over there? Like,
yeah. Or do you watch your friends, like you see your friend not eating with another friend thinking, why doesn't my friend just groak him and invite him to eat? He looks like he would want to.
It's great questions. I think this must come from a hungrier time.
Much hungrier.
Some sort of famine, if you will.
Yeah. But Kinsey, you raise a good point, which is that animals do it, like dogs especially. This is a main trait of theirs, groaking.
Right.
We're bringing this one back. I don't think
It's okay.
There's not a way to. This isn't obsolete anymore. Yeah.
It's just a matter of you got to just get it back out in circulation. It'll catch on. Well, I'll be like, hey, Bo, groak.
Mm-hmm. Groak, I will.
Excellent.
Welcome to Obsolete Vernacular with Mick, Coach Hoggett, Christopher, the Captain Kinsey, and me, Bo, no nickname, Gatlin.
Excellent.
Well, here we are, guys. First podcast, number 1.
We made it.
Episode 1. A new hope, if you will.
Ooh.
That was episode 4.
We'll get into that in another episode. Let's maybe
another time.
Let's maybe tee up for our listeners. If you're listening to this, by the way, thank you. We are honored.
Don't forget to give us a 5-star and a comment,
please.
Right?
If you're listening,
awesome.
Let's set up what this is really all about. We are 3 men in our 40s. We're friends going back to high school in the 90s. And we are in the presence of one of the greatest storytellers of all time, Mick Hoggett. Christopher tells a darn good story as well, but I think we're both in great admiration of Mick. Right, Kinsey?
Definitely.
I feel like there's 3 very good storytellers on this podcast.
I know other people that would point to the same.
Time will tell.
Trait.
Yeah, we'll see.
Time will tell. So
very true.
We have enough stories between the 3 of us that we just think these, they need to come to light. And so we're going to kick this off with something very special.
It's something, all right.
Which is, we're going to talk about Bigfoot. We're just going to go really crazy. We're going to go to Bigfoot. How are we ending up here? How are we getting to Bigfoot of our first topic ever?
You just go right there.
Here we go. That's my fault, mostly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's a topic that I've been kind of intrigued by since I was like a teenager. I've always been kind of interested in kind of the weirder things, whether it be like I loved Unsolved Mysteries when I was a kid. Robert Stack hanging out in the shadows with his long trench coat, scaring the crap out of you every Wednesday night right after Quantum Leap, right? And so, that was a show, and so there was always like once or twice a year, there was always a Bigfoot episode, and there'd be some grainy footage. And it was like, was it or was it not? And I was always just kind of intrigued by that. Didn't think any of that for years. I've always kind of like when some show would come on television, I'd watch it. Finding Bigfoot came on years ago. I always thought that was a fun show. They were just these interesting characters that were, 3 people that really believed in Bigfoot, 1 that did not. And so I just found it entertaining, and always just kind of would read up on stuff and follow people on social media, see what they had to say. So I just thought it was just kind of an intriguing topic, and there's thousands and thousands of people that believe it's real. And so the counselor in me, if you will, has always been kind of like, why are there, what's the what do you want to call it? What's the interest there? Why are there so many? Are all these people lying? Or is it some sort of mass delusion? And so I've always thought that was just kind of an interesting thing. And the people, that are involved in are kind of characters as well. So with all that said, I was almost on a Bigfoot television show like 3 years ago.
A lot to unpack here. Let's maybe dig in a little bit deeper though I need to understand what for you really though specifically is the appeal of Bigfoot.
Oh, for sure. I think it's the mystery of it. I've met people, like very credible people, that have had an experience. They saw something, heard something, and they're not crazy or delusional, and they have these very articulate stories and encounters that they've had, and I can't disprove it. It's their story. I wasn't there. And so I have to believe it at whatever face value I take it at. I think it's just this idea that there could something be out there that we've not discovered. It's hard to imagine an 8-foot bipedal primate is walking in the woods and we haven't found it yet with thermal technology and forward-looking infrared radar and all these different things we have at our disposal. But yet people keep having these experiences. And so I think it's just that the mystery of the unknown and the unsolvable, and I want that to be settled one way or the other. And then, of course, a year and a half ago, we have people sitting in Congress and the United States government's admitting to their knowledge of what we call a UAP now, an unidentified, aerial phenomenon. And so that just got all the Bigfoot folks worked up, because now they're like, Bigfoot's next. When is Congress going to, so that's the reason why, I guess. I'm currently in southeastern Oklahoma. I'm not far from some sighting reports that are within probably 30 minutes to an hour from here, where I'm currently sitting. I saw a couple on some scooters.
Let's run down the list. Aliens, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, mermaids, unicorns, leprechauns. Why not those other things? Where would you rank those, Christopher?
Did you say aliens?
Yeah, aliens.
Did you say aliens?
Yes. What about you? Where do you stand with these things?
Where would I rank them? In terms of believability, or where do I stand?
No, in terms of interest to you. Mick, he's got Bigfoot at the top, I'm assuming. Maybe I shouldn't assume that.
So here's what I was thinking about the Bigfoot thing is I think I need to know what Bigfoot is first. Like,
great question.
Before I can to tell you if I believe in it or not. Because I think there's a lot of I don't think that's been like. Does that make sense? Like what is it? Like, the woolly mammoth and saber-toothed tiger. Like, we find their bones and skeletons everywhere, and they all over the North American continent, and they clearly were wiped out by some kind of cataclysmic event, right? But there was a population of them at some point, and now there isn't. But so, I know what that is. Like, I know what a saber-toothed tiger is. I know what a woolly mammoth was. So I don't have trouble believing in them. But what are we talking about? Like, are we talking about an animal from that time period that just like made it somehow? Are we talking about
awesome
that's
point.
And
that's a good point.
Because when it comes to an alien, if someone says, here's my thing. If someone says, "Oh, I saw some lights in the sky, I believe in aliens now," I'm like, well, I know what you're talking about when you're talking about an alien. Like, it's something from another planet, like a living being from another planet.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know exactly, but enough to put it in that category, and I can decide if I believe that exists or not based on it. But like, I don't know how to believe or decide if I believe in Bigfoot, because I don't even really know who or what Bigfoot is.
You don't have a cat, and I think that's the problem. I think that's these folks that are running around in the woods, banging sticks and hooping and hollering and making all this noise, and there are credible. There are credible scientists. I think about a Dr. Jeff Meldrum that works at Utah State. Right, he's a doctor of anthropology who specializes in foot morphology. Right, so he gets into all this stuff. Right, and like this dude has one of the most popular courses in all of that university, and he has like an extensive footprint collection that have been sent to him from people all over the world that have had these encounters. And he says some of them are fake. They faked it, but he understands. Cap and I were having a conversation before we hopped on. I was like, he looks at how the foot interacts with the ground. That can't be faked. Right? A foot interacts with the natural like texture of the ground. And so when he sees a footprint that has those natural prints in it or movement in it, or what he calls a dermal, you'll see a dermal ridge, which is like the almost like the prints on the bottom of your foot. When he sees that show, those are very hard to fake. All this is coming from just my own research and my own listening and learning, because I'm, like I said, just fascinated by it all that to say, they're all on this quest to answer Cap's question. What are they? Are they a primate? Are they just some undiscovered primate, or are they some sort of real hominid from 10,000 years ago, some sort of genetic branch of humans that grew too tall? I don't know.
So, like, to answer your question, Bo,
Yeah.
Bigfoot, maybe. Aliens, maybe. Everything else, no.
Not even Nessie?
But I will say this: why believe in Bigfoot and not in Loch Ness?
Good point. That's where I'm at, Mick.
It's a great point. I think 90%. Could there be some sort of large underwater, paleo distant mammal that's swimming in there? I guess the problem with Loch Ness in particular is there is no source to outside water that it could come in from and get trapped in for that long. That makes sense, right? There's no outlet to the ocean. It's just a big lake, right? And so it's just a massive lake that has there might have been some outlet to the ocean maybe like 50,000 years ago, but it's been closed off since the Ice Age. So it would be hard for something to exist in that large body of water for that amount of time without being able to go in and out into ocean, because that's just what I've heard. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that's interesting. I don't even know that Bigfoot's real. I'm just fascinated.
Well, how are all these Bigfoot eluding us? I mean, like, it's clearly not just one.
No,
I mean, and for a population to like continue, there has to be some kind of breeding.
All
like
great question.
How are they?
All great questions.
I mean, how are they hiding all of their like bones and like? I mean, why are we not like? If there's one of them, there's no way he lasted that long. And if there's a community, if there's a population of them enough to like thrive, why are we not found them yet? So
I heard an interesting conversation about this recently from an actual wildlife biologist that talks about, we have he was a wildlife biologist, and he goes in his career, and I wish I could, quote him who he was specifically, but in his career in the Pacific Northwest, he had only found one black bear skeleton ever in like 30 years of being in the woods, because and I thought it was an interesting statistic just to bring it up, because he said they're specifically in the Pacific Northwest, right, where you have the acidic elements in the soil are incredibly high, right, due to all the amounts of rainfall that they have. The decomp that happens there is astronomical, and so he said you don't find a lot of skeletons in deciduous forests like that, is because they just decomp really, really fast, and the rodents eat bones. That's a source of
Okay, I can buy that.
It is plausible.
That's plausible.
But I think that at some point we would have found a skeleton. Number one, I think that's wild to think that it's never ever been found. And so I think that's a little much for me. I think we should have discovered something by now. The other camp will tell you, all right, is that there was some recent discoveries in Africa that there was an ancient relic human that we found were the first ancient humans to bury their dead in a chamber. There was a cave that was found in Africa. It's actually a Netflix special on it. That's actually pretty fascinating to watch and learn about, because it was the elements that they went through to discover this was pretty incredible. But the other camp would say that they are advanced enough that they do bury some of their young and their dead, and that's why we've never found a skeleton, is because they purposely bury their troop, if you will. They use the kind of the gorilla idea of like family models, which is called a troop for gorillas, and because gorillas do some similar things like that. And so, so I don't know if that's true. I just find those interesting. Some say it's because they decompose so fast because of where they live, and two is possibly they bury their dead, and that's why we've never found a bone.
Before we get too much into the weeds, and you clearly know a lot here. I mean, you've already name dropped a professor. Impressed. And my knowledge of Bigfoot only goes so far as the 1980 movie Harry and the Hendersons.
That's a good one. John Lithgow.
And yes, left me with I want to meet Bigfoot. He's got a family, smells bad, but kind heart. So that's the extent of my knowledge. So I'm really learning a lot here. But my question is the same as Christopher's, which is, if Bigfoot feet, what are you called plural? How do you refer to them?
It's like a moose. It's moose or moose. Bigfoot.
I think I heard you and Kinsey at one point referred to these as wood apes. Is that a specific type of Bigfoot?
No, that is what a particular research organization here in the southeastern part of the state of Oklahoma call them, as wood apes. They believe they are a primate that live, predominantly in the woods, and they use the word wood ape, as a descriptor for what we call Bigfoot or Sasquatch.
So if
here's another thing that keep going, Bo.
Okay, let me just ask this really quick. To your point, Christopher, if these exist, they are and have to be one of the most elusive creatures ever, and by design almost. They would have to be.
And because again, this takes me back to where I asked the question, like, what are they? Because not only would they be elusive, but apparently, they are I don't think anyone would argue that they are like a prehistoric type. Creature, correct? But Mick,
no, there's no evidence of that at all. You are correct.
No, I'm saying they must be, right? Because you're not saying that they're you're not saying that they're like a contemporary to modern humans, correct?
No.
So my point is this: is why did they survive? When all various other large fauna did not survive? So there must be something. I'm saying I'm talking to what Bo said. It's not only must they be elusive, they must be incredibly resilient to have survived what a woolly mammoth couldn't survive. And we know there were large populations of woolly mammoth, and not a single woolly mammoth, to my knowledge, survived.
No. The woolly mammoth is actually trying to be reintroduced through some genetic stuff. That's a true story.
That's crazy.
They're trying to use just mammoth DNA in an African elephant to try to reintroduce the woolly mammoth. Who knows if that'll happen or not? But those are great questions. I don't have answers to any of that. I wish I did. There would have to be some sort of adaptability, some sort of skill set that they have developed over time that's allowed them to survive extreme climates, impossible situations. You're absolutely correct. I just don't know what those are. I think if we knew what those are and we could answer those questions, there'd be a lot of people listening to this podcast right now, because they'd be
Mick,
yeah.
I have one other thing, Mick, a thing I thought about, and I don't know a lot, so you can step in here, but the other thing about it is that there seems to be this same type of like mythological creature in various other cultures. Like
Oh, yeah.
Good point.
Bigfoot is
Good
like a
point.
North America thing. There's Sasquatch. There's Yeti.
Which is in the Himalayas. Yeah.
So my thing, that's where that is another one of the like little kind of glimmers of something that makes me just go, oh, is this all just sort of like a like cultural myth? Because like
Yeah.
because why would it, unless this being or this similar type of thing just does exist all over the globe?
Yeah.
Then the only other answer I would have for it is that it's too convenient to be just a consistent myth among,
Yeah.
well, maybe it was something that settlers used to scare their kids.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, you have oral traditions from just about every Native American tribe in the North America has some sort of oral tradition of some sort of hairy man or some sort of large creature that we have petroglyphs in caves in New Mexico and Nevada and Southern California that are hundreds of years old that depict the natives trading with these large footed tall creatures.
But see,
Right.
that makes me believe it. I mean,
I know. And
that
I'm like going,
sounds,
so what does that mean? Like, what is
that's
that?
the more believable evidence that I mean,
Yeah. So even like, Bigfoot was really not a thing. There was no phenomenon of Bigfoot until 1967. All right. So like your Bigfoot
the
history
Peterson
is
film or Patterson, what was
the
it?
Patterson Gimlin film of 1967. All right. Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson on horseback in.
We will link to this in
Okay.
the show notes.
It's a popular video. Most people have seen it. All right. They're on horseback in what's now known as Bluff Creek area. There's a river that they were searching, and they had been hearing stories about all this. And so they went on horseback for several days, camping, going through, and they come across a dry creek bed. Roger Patterson dismounts because he thought he saw something. He jumps out, starts rolling film, and films what's known, affectionately known as Patty. After Roger Patterson has this 20-second footage of her walking across. It was female, per his description, walking across this creek bed and up this hill. Bob Gimlin's still living. The other gentleman that was Roger Patterson died a few years later. He had health problems and things like that for years after that. But immediately there was controversy. It was faked. People came out and said I was the one in the costume. There have been, but some of that's been debunked because they weren't even around when this was filmed. And so I don't know. That's where, and so with that, because the Bigfoot term, I was actually coined by a guy named Jerry Cruz in the late 50s, early 60s. He was a road worker. He was a construction guy building in that in the Bluff Creek area. They were cutting logging roads, and they started having damage to their equipment and all these different things. And he found these huge footprints through their camps, and he was the one that went in a newspaper and casted one of these footprints. It's like, we found this in our construction site, and his name was Jerry Cruz, and thus the Bigfoot craze, the Bigfoot word was born. Before that, there'd been Sasquatch, which is actually a Native American term. That's where that came from. So
Now, Coach, you sent the captain and I a video of some recent footage
yes.
of a sighting, and hard for me to make that out. I'm curious, what is the name of that, and why is that so compelling to the believing crowd?
Give me just a second, so I can.
Good question, because I would say after watching that, I mean, I didn't know what I was looking at. I wouldn't have even the second part where they like enhance it. I wouldn't have even told you that was.
So that's
like I was surprised. I was really surprised by that, because I wouldn't have even pointed that out as like human or even an animal. Like I don't even know what that video thought it was looking at, unless my eyes are just.
So here's the interesting part: that the Stacey Brown footage, right? So that's from like 2012, right? In Florida. That was filmed in Florida by Stacey Brown and his dad. His dad actually filmed it, not Stacey. So they didn't see what they filmed per their account. They didn't even see what they had filmed until they got back to camp later. They were walking around in the dark. They had that was the early days of like FLIR, right? Forward looking infrared, a handheld like FLIR device that you could, record heat. The hotter it is, the darker their image, right? And so they were walking around in the woods, and the dad was running the camera and didn't really know what he was looking at. He said he saw something bobbing in and out of the tree. And I think if you listen to the full clip on like YouTube, where you hear their audio, because the son's filming with his handy cam with like the light on it, and he's in night view and stuff. They're like straight the palmettos. They're kicking those all around. They're stumbling around in the dark. And the dad thinks there's a raccoon in the tree. He's like, hey, there's a raccoon in the tree. All right. And so, and then all of a sudden this thing, whatever they recorded apparently steps out and across this path from 50 yards away, and they catch this image of what looks like a large bipedal creature stepping across, clearing an 8-foot path in one step, and disappearing into the dark. They don't find that out until they get back, and they're like looking through the footage, and they're like, holy cow, what did we just record with this thing? It's become, in the Bigfoot world, as the kind of the gold standard for thermal footage of a Bigfoot. It was recorded by a guy named Stacy Brown, still lives in Florida, and he's the Bigfoot guy and does a bunch of research and all kinds of crazy stuff. So
Go ahead.
No, Bo, you go. Sorry.
I'm about to pivot, so continue on.
I was just going to say, I was going to like just say my last final thought a little bit. I mean, like, I will say, I feel a little, as I sit here and think to myself, oh, I've convinced myself that Bigfoot doesn't exist. I think, in fact, I was having the thought, just now, I for a second, I let myself think I would almost believe that this was an alien more than I would a Bigfoot. But then immediately I thought, how arrogant is that of me to think and to believe that there isn't some creature or some mammal that hasn't been discovered on this earth? Because I mean, we still discover new species often in the ocean, in remote areas. So, I mean, it's kind of going to be for me, I guess, at this point, one of those things where until I have evidence to not believe it, I don't disbelieve it.
I tell people all the time, they'll be like, do you believe Bigfoot's real? And I always tell them, and this may sound silly, but I say I'm a cautious optimist. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. I don't lose much sleep about it. I think it's a fun hobby. It's a fun thing to read about and watch YouTube videos on from time to time, because there's some real interesting characters out there putting a lot of videos out on YouTube, and they're running around in the dark with cameras and really expensive equipment, and they're not recording anything, but boy, they sure get worked up real easy in the dark, in the woods. And so I find that because it's created a whole genre of belief for people that have never had an experience in their life, never seen anything, never heard anything other than just, man, they started watching a television show, or they had somebody told them a story 15 years ago, and it's like, that's all it took, which I find unbelievable.
It's probably similar to some of the like Area 51, like people, there are events,
hardcore belief.
People that have stickers on their car that say "I believe," and it's like an alien. It's like,
oh, for sure,
you've never had an alien experience either, but you
hardcore believe.
You're just part. You've decided to join this community, and that's. I mean, hey,
when I went to that Bigfoot festival 3 years ago, and I saw 3,000-4,000 people of this like shared mindset, and it is a community. They have found a home with each other. Man, they all know each other. They love each other. They support each other. They take care of each other. And I was like, okay. I mean, these are your people. That's cool.
I would go to a Bigfoot festival with absolutely no interest in Bigfoot, just because that would be fun to go to.
It's a hoot.
I would love to see that.
I mean, the food's great. There's a lot of great food and great music, and neat people just kind of hanging out, selling stuff. It's all got a Bigfoot on it. That whole area is there a subgenre of
music that's like Bigfoot
related.
themed?
No, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of bluegrass, a lot of country, a lot of red dirt. That's that crowd.
Mhm.
So
I was even gonna guess maybe some metal, but I
now
get maybe not.
there probably is a little bit of that somewhere because there's
Just a
some
little
folks.
screamo,
Yeah.
like a little.
Yeah.
That adds
No,
up.
no.
Okay, clearly, Mick, you know a lot about Bigfoot, more than the average Joe, which leads us into why
Probably.
we wanted to kick off with this, which is you had a really interesting experience happen to you. How long ago did this happen?
Now it was about 3 years ago.
All right,
When it started.
Okay, so tee this up for us. So, Mick, give us a little bit of history about yourself. Like, what do you do? Where do you live? Who do you know?
Not a lot. Live in Edmond, Oklahoma. I'm a counselor at a high school there, one of our large high schools in the school district. Been there for a couple years. Been a counselor for about 10 years now in public ed. Love it. Love my job. Love helping families and kiddos. And so that's kind of married. I've been married for almost 23 years, got 3 kiddos, and love my family, and they're kind of my whole world. And but this is kind of one of those fun things on the side. And believe it or not, my wife's brother is who kind of got the ball rolling on this whole resurgence of Bigfoot, I guess you could say, in my life about 3 years ago.
All right, so you're sitting around one day, what, at a family gathering, you're talking to your brother-in-law.
My father-in-law's birthday, of all things. We're at Upper Crust Pizza, which is a pizza joint there in Edmond. Good little place to get pizza. And we're hanging out, and he's telling me he's kind of works in the film industry. He was working on a documentary. He was trying to get one sold on a network, and I kind of found that out after the fact. And he came to the dinner, and I was like, "Hey, I hear you're trying to sell a documentary. What's it about?" And he said Bigfoot, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I was like, "Yeah, I kind of was into Bigfoot when I was younger, and thought that was a pretty cool topic." And kind of said a couple things about what I knew and what I had read in the past. And my brother-in-law was like, "Hey, do you want to go on camera and say some of that?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah." I said, "Just I'm going to bring my producer buddy that we're kind of doing this doc together, and we want to film you for a little bit and just kind of get some of that on tape and see what happens." I'm like, "Sure." So we met up, filmed it. Took like an hour and a half, of just kind of filming. He asked me some questions. I answered them, kind of just left it at that, thinking that would never see the light of day, but that was kind of fun. And that was in like March, like March of like, I don't know, about this time of year, 3 years ago, really about mid-March of 2021. And within like a month, I get a phone call back that the production company had greenlit the opportunity of this show to be made, and I was to be a cast member in a Bigfoot documentary that was going to be filmed at the Southeastern Oklahoma Bigfoot Festival the following October, which was kind of a mind trip for me to go from like being asked some questions in the park, just to kind of get like a kind of an outdoor vibe, to, hey, we're going to start filming in October. But there's going to be all these meetings and all these things along the way that you're going to have to do, and sign contracts and talent contracts and all this stuff. And I was like, whoa, it was wild. It was a wild jump to go from like, hey, let's just talk to this, to, hey, you're going to be a cast member in a show. So I was like, it's kind of a whirlwind.
I would imagine so. Now, for people that don't know you, it might sound that way. When you told me this story the first time, to me, it was, of course, this would happen, Mick. I mean, you've got the personality for it. You love to tell a good tale,
Yeah,
true or not. And so this was just like more of a finally thing, right? You just needed your entrance.
just needed my shot, man. I just want to shoot my shot.
So what happened next?
So I ended up meeting with, I met a producer, kind of met the chief producer, the guy that was kind of the show, what they call the showrunner. Met with him in Oklahoma City, and he kind of cast his vision for the show. And he was doing that with all the other cast members that were going to be a part of the program. And so he had met at different times, different places, and we met in Oklahoma City. And we talked through it, and he kind of wanted to hear my story and how I kind of fit in the show. And he loved it. And in fact, he ended up calling me a couple days later, just telling me, we're excited. I've told the the producers about you, and we're good, and we're excited about you being a part of this. And I end up getting a contract like a couple weeks later. So now it's April, it's probably mid-April by now, and I get a contract I have to sign. My brother-in-law brings one by the house that kind of outlines pay and work and how this is all gonna what our how stuff's gonna go. And then I start having meetings at a studio here in Oklahoma City that we were using that's kind of where they're kind of housed out of. And I was going up there for fittings for different outfits and learning how to use. We self-filmed a lot. And so I got I had an iPhone and a tripod and all these other things I had to go. And because one of the like story producers was a guy that came from the show Alone. It's on the History Channel.
Great show.
Loved that. I was a huge fan. When I found out, I was like, I love this idea. I'm all into this idea. I love that show. The big outdoors guy, I love to hunt and fish. And so that was kind of a big deal. So he wanted a lot of self-filming because he was going to use some of that stuff that he had done on Alone. He was going to use on this show as well. And so we would go out and film different things and upload it to the cloud, and they would take it. That's how they were kind of building all that footage on the side leading up to, October, when we were going to start at the festival in Hochatown, which is outside of Idabel, that area in southeastern Oklahoma, for like 2 or 3 days. We were going to do a big bulk of filming while we were there.
Now, Mick, for the uninitiated like myself, what are some of the key principles that you want to do when you're self-filming, right? If you had to break that down, do you remember anything from this? Like what's important to do?
Oh, you would do like multiple shots. They wanted you like they wanted you walking somewhere, right? So that you had a small stand that you could set at your table. They wanted a lot of like diary type stuff. Like you'd make these daily entries. They wanted like daily entries of you, like, what are your thoughts about what you've heard today about Bigfoot? Or they might give us like a talking point, but a lot of times they just wanted us like daily, like kind of video vlogging, if you will, kind of our, so they knew they wanted a lot of outdoor stuff of me. Like they wanted me shooting my bow, like sighting my bow in, right? So I'm out like target shooting, and I would set up, the tripod that would show me walking to my stand or walking back from my stand. I was actually able to rig the camera up using this special kind of clamp on the camera that would allow it to like mount it to my bow where it would look down the arrow while I shot to see the target. And so stuff like that, I filmed deer, coyote howls, anytime I was out in the woods, I was just kind of filming some of that stuff. They just wanted all that kind of just B-roll kind of outdoor, because that was a perspective that I was bringing, that because a lot of the other guys weren't outdoorsmen much. And so I kind of brought that was something they wanted to add to the show. And so I was doing stuff like that all the time. Sometimes I'd set it up at my desk in my office and talk, shut my door. So yeah.
So, okay, let me roll back a little bit.
It was wild. It was absolutely wild. I felt like an idiot most of the time, especially when I was like just talking into the phone, like sitting at my desk or sitting at a table, because you're just talking to nobody, but that's what they wanted. They wanted that idea of you just like sharing your thoughts.
I want to know the mindset in the hog at home when this contract comes through and this is turning into something. What's Ashley? What's her mindset? What are your daughters? How do they feel about all this?
They thought it was hysterical because here I had always watched these dumb shows and everybody kind of giving me a hard time about it. And then all of a sudden now I'm about to be in one. They're like, this is about right. This is perfect. This is what we always imagined. And I think a part of them always thought it was kind of a joke until Christopher walked in and had when my brother-in-law Steven came in and had the contract, and they were like, he's like, this is real now. And I was like, I mean, I had an attorney look at it. I was like, is this legitimate? Like, am I getting punked on this? And he's like, no, dude, this is a real like talent contract. It's legitimate. I mean, the language is good. It work. It's very standard. And I'm like going, really? Like, this is for real. Like, he's not messing with me. He's not, he's like, no, it's like, this is legitimate. As far as contracts go, it's legitimate. I don't know if it's really going to be a show or not, but this is legitimate stuff. And I was like, wow. So signed it and away we went. we went through the summer, kind of self-filming, doing some different things, meeting, off and on at different times. And then we kind of got the whole, see you in October. We're going to meet at this, event, and they got cabins for us at down there at Beaver's Bend. They had put us up in cabins, put my whole family up, fed us, did the whole 9 yards. The 3 days we were down there, 4 days or whatever it was. It's pretty cool.
I mean, I can say when you first told me, I thought the same thing. I thought this is perfect. I thought, oh my gosh, like,
I know.
Seriously,
It really was kind of wild.
And I was really bummed, as I'm sure you were, when I found out the show hadn't gotten picked up. I mean,
it was. I think it was for all of us that were kind of involved. It was, there was, you learn, I don't know much about making a television show or anything like that. I'm a singer of simple songs, but it was pretty funny because, even after it got canceled, it tried to come back off the mat a couple times. A couple different production companies kind of got sniffed around, and a couple of networks were kind of like, well, maybe that, because this production company had worked with them in the past. But by the time there was some external litigation got involved between the showrunner and the production company, and some like who owned what, and it got real toxic real quick. And money, when you're talking about money making a show, and they pulled the plug on it after we got done filming, and we came back. We filmed down there, and for 3 days, everybody had a day. I had a whole day where they followed me at different things. Got to film some with Charles Markham. He'd been on Finding Bigfoot, and he'd been on Housewives of Dallas. He lives down there full time, which was pretty cool. And we kind of hit it off, and so we ended up filming a bunch together. And because he's a big turkey hunter and outdoors guy like me, so we had a lot in common. And so it was a lot of fun. But then we got back and come to find out the finances had kind of getting yanked out from underneath us because of some other stuff that was kind of out of our control. So the show never saw the light of day. So whatever filming I did is out there somewhere in the ether. But I've never seen any of it. And so that stuff became like intellectual property issues. And so I don't know where it's at, but we had a lot of fun while we did. It was a good time. Nobody found Bigfoot while we were down there, or saw Bigfoot, or I got a fake footprint out of the deal, which is pretty cool. Guy gave one to me. He said it was real. It's so not real. But it's on my mantle at my house.
How big is it?
It's like 17 inches. It's massive.
It's Bigfoot.
It is a Bigfoot. I mean, it's like
it's not even as big as Shaq.
No, I mean, Shaq's foot's bigger. I think. I don't know. But the guy gave it to me. He had them for sale at the Bigfoot Festival, and I walked by and I was like, "Are these for real? Did you do these prints?" He was like, "Yes," and he signed all the back of them and the dates where he'd found them. I was like, "This is
a print guy."
Yeah, you got a good print guy. And I was like, that's awesome. And he was selling for like $20 or $25, which I was not paying for that. And of course, his camera crew's following me around, all this other stuff. And he was like, y'all filming a show? And I'm like, yeah, they're filming some stuff. And he just gave it to me. So I kept it.
Here's what I want to see. I want to see a new like series or movie or something where Bigfoot is framed for a murder. Because how perfect is that? Like,
yeah.
Because not only would you frame Bigfoot and get yourself off if you're the framer, but like you would prove Bigfoot's existence by placing of evidence and fake,
So this is interesting. There is a guy named David Politis, real dude, who's written a series of books called, one of them is called Missing 411, and it's all these stories of people that have gone missing in like mysterious circumstances, and like not a trace of them ever found. And he kind of implies throughout the book that through his stories and encounters that Bigfoot may be responsible for some of these deaths and or kidnappings that have happened all throughout the Pacific Northwest, and in like upper British Columbia and Canada.
Bigfoot's like catfishing people. Like,
yeah, he's got fake accounts all over the place. Just, I mean,
if there's a creature. Yeah, if there's a creature that could hide the bodies, I would trust Bigfoot with that. I mean, they've gone
not
almost virtually undetected for all this time.
not getting caught. I mean, if you're out there listening, fans, and something goes haywire, and you know Bigfoot, I would ask him, "Hey, can you help me get rid of this body?" Because I promise you, never going to be found. No. Not a trace.
Never.
And what little bit of trace they find, most people aren't going to believe it's even real. They'll be like, "That's not real." That's a
really good point.
That's not real.
It's really good.
It's fake. So then you walk away scot-free.
I'm surprised there aren't more like feature films featuring Bigfoot. I mean, there's Harry and the Hendersons. Are there some I'm missing?
There's a couple of animated films called Eloise. Have you heard of these, Mick? They're from the last like 5 to 10 years. It's like Bigfoot. There's a couple of them, but they're like.
I think I do know a little bit about this. I've seen,
but it's like it's a total spin on. It's like he became Bigfoot. A normal guy became Bigfoot through some kind of weird laboratory experiment,
like Spider-Man,
like a Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, got bit by a radioactive Bigfoot.
But he has a kid, and his kid is like half Bigfoot, and his kid has to like go save him. And there's like an oil tycoon thing. It's like Eloise watched him. She got scared of like oil because of like at the end, like
I don't want to be a Sasquatch.
No, she thought that the oil was like bad for animals. It's because I think the whole movie is like also kind of veiled in like sort of an like
environmental protection type thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it set in Oklahoma?
No, it's set in like Alaska in like this like pristine wilderness where this bad guy is like drilling for oil, and Bigfoot goes to like I don't know,
stop him.
It's animated and for children. So
we're up to Harry and the Hendersons in an animated series.
So I do know of one. Okay. Right? I know of one. Believe it or not, guys, this is a blast from the past. The director was Bobcat Goldthwait of Police Academy fame.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Okay.
The crazy talking guy, right?
Yes.
Weird voice.
The crazy voice. Yeah. He made one that's considered by a lot of folks as pretty good, and it's called Willow Creek is the name of it, which is the area where near where Bluff Creek is at, the area where the Roger Patterson.
Wait, I always get him confused. Bo, who's the guy in Say Anything? Wait, or it's another.
Say Anything's John Cusack.
No, but the friend who talks about the street value of the mountain, is that not Say Anything?
That's Better Off
Dead.
Oh,
that's Better Off Dead.
Charles DeMar, but that's not his real name. I can't know.
Why do I always
Bobcat.
get him confused with Bobcat? Yeah. They're not even the same. That's so bad.
Because he's also he's Booger and like Revenge of the Nerds.
Yes,
and
I'm
all
so
of that.
sorry that I.
No, you're good. Yeah. You're good. Played a lot of similar characters. But Bobcat directed one called Willow Creek, and it's this story of that's it, my man. And so they go into Bluff Creek to go try to find the Patterson Gimlin film site, and it's kind of one of those like found footage genres. It's kind of like what do you want to call it? Like Blair Witch kind of style, but not near as like shaky and weird. And so it's one of these things where they find their camera after the fact. And they've had this like Bigfoot encounter, and it killed them, and all this. But it's actually pretty well done. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's pretty good. In fact, the guy that acts in that movie, his name's Bryce Johnson. I shouldn't know this much, but I do. The guy the lead actor is a guy named Bryce Johnson. He's now the host of a Bigfoot show on the Discovery Channel. That's going to its like fourth season. That's catching a little bit of buzz. So he was in a Bigfoot movie. And he's also the host of a Bigfoot show now, where they actually go and like do all this stuff. They're using the latest, greatest technology in the Pacific Northwest. Usually, yeah, Bryce Johnson's his name. He's got a podcast too, called the Bigfoot Society. So I've listened to a couple episodes of that. So not bad.
Mick, thanks for sharing this story.
Oh, you're welcome.
Couldn't have happened to a better guy, and unfortunately, it sounds like the footage is going to be as elusive as the subject.
Absolutely. I did get one check. I got paid one check for my work. And so I can officially say I was a paid reality television actor for like.
Did they withhold on that, or did you have to? Did you have to report that yourself? Was that a W-9? Was that a?
Yeah. Nope. Had to report it. So. Yep. Nothing.
That's a shame.
Yeah. No good deed ever goes
Government's
unpunished,
gonna
my
get
friend.
theirs. Yeah.
No good deed,
Yeah.
my friend.
Would you do it again for half the price?
It would it was pretty grueling. I'm not gonna lie to you. So the answer is no.
That was not what I expected you to say.
Me either.
No,
but
I would do it again, but they're
good
gonna
for
have
you, Mick.
they'd have to triple or quadruple the price.
Stand your ground.
Because that was intent. It was. I mean, it was like up the day that I filmed. It started at like 7 a.m. and I got back to the cabin at like 4 a.m. that day, and it was like nonstop the whole time. And so I was like, "Holy smokes, this is a long." I was exhausted. It was just me and this crew and several other people, kind of off and on doing different things. And there's a lot of standing around at times because something's not working or some shot's not right. And so you got to just wait for it to get right. And so it was a
Did
lot.
you wear makeup?
No, they did a little, like one time in one scene, they did put a little bit of like
A little powder
on my forehead because it was looked like a movie
a little
screen.
shiny.
Yeah, it was a little shiny in some like fluorescent lighting in a little diner that we were filming in.
You're in southeastern Oklahoma, and when was it?
Like 01,
October?
fall of 01, fall of 02.
Yeah,
like
it's hot. It's hot.
Oh, it was hot every day. It was never. I mean, a beautiful country. Love being down there. Great people, but it was hot and humid, even in October. So, but yeah, it was a fun experience. Glad I did it once. Haven't lost an ounce of sleep over it since then. So
amazing.
But it was a lot of fun.
Well, let's move into our next segment, which is called Random Topic Generator. You guys ready for this?
Let's go.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, and it's just rapid fire. Your thoughts on it. When people make mistakes about food, do you feel the need to correct them?
Can you be more
Mick,
specific?
why don't you start?
Can we be more specific with that question?
No.
When they make mistakes about food.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it depends
like
on what
at a restaurant.
Like it depends on what mistake they're making, I suppose.
What comes to mind for you? What's the first thing that's coming to your mind when you think about a mistake with food?
Cooked improperly.
Okay, go with that. Do you feel the need to correct them?
Absolutely. I mean, it's the service industry. They have a job. I'm the consumer. They're the creator. So my hope is that whatever I ask for, they get right. Otherwise, I am going to ask them to fix it within reason.
No, I'm the exact opposite. I'm like the one that is hushing my wife. I'm like, shh, just take it. It's fine. Just don't. It's fine. Just go. Just keep moving. I'm I'm eternally scared of the soup Nazi. You know what I mean? I'm like, just take it. Just keep going. Just don't, whatever. That's not what I ordered. I don't care. You'll eat it. It's fine.
It's raw. It's okay. It's uncooked. Yeah. It will not hurt you.
Whatever.
They have medicine. If there's salmonella, you'll be fine.
What does Bo say?
Well,
what does the end all be all say?
If it's expensive, I'll mention it nicely.
Yeah. I'm always going to be nice about it.
Of course.
Yeah.
If it's not, if I feel like it's going to be more hassle, yeah. I may not do it. Now let me ask you guys the follow-up question to this is why do you respond that way? And I'll start with Christopher on this. Christopher, is it tied to a lack of confrontation, or you want to avoid that? Does it tie to your family history?
I think it's more the family history.
Family restaurant fam.
Probably because I'm like, hey, just give them a break, just chill.
They're working for tips, man. It's all good.
Exactly.
Yeah, cut a brother some slack.
I'll never forget. Literally, I was a teenager, at that kind of point where you start to realize what life's about.
Absolutely.
When I found out at my dad's restaurant that it might have been actually when I got my first job. I was a lifeguard and I was making minimum wage, whatever that $7 maybe. And I remember finding out that the wait staff at his restaurant did not make minimum wage. There's like a separate like rate for wait staff.
Yeah.
And I was like irate. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, but they get tips." And I was like, "Well, tips are tips. Like what? Like that's a tip on top of like." I go, "How do you pay them? Like, how do you pay them less than minimum wage? Like, how is that a tip then? If that's, I mean, I was irate, and my dad like did not understand me. I mean, my dad and I, the older we get, I see more eye to eye with him. But at 14 or however old I was just like, I've never been further from understanding your whole life than finding out that you don't pay your wait staff. I think they made like, and this was in like the late 90s, but I think they made like $2.50 an hour.
Yeah, that's pretty common with wait staff back then.
And I was ready to go to like the Congress. Like I was going to destroy my dad's business because I was like,
Bring
this
the
is
whole
not
house
fair.
down.
Like they need to make if they get a tip, that is just a bonus icing on the cake. That should not be part of their salary.
So now
your father's a great man.
He's one
he's one of the best people in the world. How did he even try to explain this to you? Did he even try to explain it? Did he try to explain it to you?
No,
or did he say that's just the way it is?
So he had been in it so long that his brain was just like didn't understand what I was saying. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, absolutely.
Like and that belies, that's the point, is like what you're saying is like, no, my dad is the nicest man on the planet. Like for him to not understand what I was saying about that, just like that was the point, like he was so in it. Like, and it's like, I mean, it's like, well, that, we couldn't afford to pay him $7.25 an hour. If we had to pay him $7.25 an hour, like you make like, and I'm like, then just raise the price of the food and no one, and why then, and make us all quit having to tip, because that's even more fair. Because what if the poor girl does like spills something on accident and then she gets a shit tip? Like, beep. You know what I mean? Though I hated that. I hated that because I was like, well, now that's even worse, because now like she's not going to get her.
Not only is she making $2 an hour, she doesn't even get the tip. She just worked all that and she made like $3.
Yeah, because she tripped. You know what I mean? Like, like what 14 a crap years old industry.
Look at you.
Well, I mean, you did not revolutionize the industry.
I gave up immediately. I just said it.
Christopher Davis Kinsey is like is the Justice League for wait staff. Like, please.
Don't even start me on shared tips. I mean, that's even like
we don't have time for socialism right now. Kinsey.
Okay, Mick, how about you? Where does your sense of justice or what you're going to do in that situation come from? Do you think?
I think it just comes from like I'm a firm believer like doing your job well, and they do, and the wait staff has no control over how that's cooked, and I get that, and so I'm always very, very polite about it. And if I order something a certain way, especially like a steak or chicken or something like that, you want your chicken to be done because you don't want to get sick, and you like your steaks a certain way. If it's within like reason, I won't even say anything. There's been a couple times where I've gotten chicken that have been undercooked, and I've just been like, I can't eat that. Like, it's like for safety purposes.
I'm going to go regional for just a minute.
For safety purposes.
Let's just go regional for a minute. That makes sense. You just want to be safe when you eat.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys are still living in Oklahoma, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're familiar with Charleston's.
Oh yeah.
Excellent place.
Great place.
Yeah.
I travel for work in Oklahoma now. Yeah. What?
Hal Smith.
It's part of the Hal
Smith group.
Yeah.
So Charleston's is the only restaurant I've ever been at. They're known. One of their specialties is pork chops.
Great pork chops. Yeah. Sure.
Maybe the best I've had anywhere.
You get the 2 pork chops.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
You get the glazed carrots.
It's the only place I've ever been at. You got to get the carrots there. Key lime pie.
Yeah.
So garlic mashed potatoes.
Dude, it's so good. Let's go.
You're hungry now?
Yeah. So, I love Charleston's.
So it's the only place I've ever eaten pork chops, though, where they've said, how do you want those cooked?
Right.
Yeah, because pork's
which
in that.
the
I'm
first
like-
time they asked me, I thought it was a joke because it's pork.
It's like I need it cooked.
That's a
is how I
new
like
thing.
it. That is new.
Yeah. That was like the
No.
scare of the like, was that like the late 80s or the trick? What's the trichinosis or whatever?
Trichinosis,
Like,
yeah.
undercooked pork. I think that's
Mhm.
it's been dispelled that it's not a thing, and so now they ask that. But I'm with you. It's like asking how you want your chicken cooked. I'm like,
I want the
done.
salmonella gone, please. Like the hazardous parts have to be cooked.
which is another thing. I heard a stat the other day about salmonella because my wife, God bless her, who's right in here, scared to death of like poorly cooked chicken.
Ashley
like,
Hoggett,
probably-
the exact same way.
And Bo, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I feel like you are sensitive to meats and how they're cooked. Am I wrong?
No, that's why I
No.
was,
Yeah.
flabbergasted by suggesting that I eat my pork medium.
Right, but I saw a stat the other day. I'll look it up. You look it up. I'll find it though. That the actual cases of salmonella poisoning are absolutely non-existent.
Isn't that
Like-
wild?
It is something we were scared into. Now I'm not. But here's the thing: have you ever eaten chicken that like isn't quite cooked very good? It's horrible. Like it's
Yeah.
it's
not good.
texture. So
Bad texture. Bad
But
texture.
the fact that we all kind of stand on this, like, oh, I don't want to get salmonella poisoning. It's like you have more of a chance of getting salmonella poisoning, like eating a raw egg, I think, than
I have heard
eating
that you can get.
undercooked chicken.
I've heard this recently that you can get salmonella also from like greens. Like
Oh
bi-
yeah, probably.
and like that was kind of I was like, okay, like I've been giving chicken a real hard time about their salmonella, but I'm realizing
Yeah,
vegetables can hook you up with the salmonella as well.
But it kind of
All
does
right.
it itself. Like you ever handled? I mean, when you handle like raw chicken, like there's nothing glamorous about that. Like it's nasty.
No, that's a nasty
Like-
process. Like you're just like,
Let
hey,
me
I
bring
promise
some
you this will
facts
be
into this.
better.
Let me bring some facts into this discussion,
facts,
gentlemen.
facts.
Just
All
the
right,
facts,
this is real
man.
time. In 2022 in the U.S., 420 deaths from salmonella. Now, it does not say if that's from chicken.
Yeah, but
And
that's,
think about this. Most people eat at least 3 times a day.
Mhm.
And I don't know how many people are currently in the U.S., but it's many, hundreds of millions?
Yeah, like
300 million?
Probably, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe even
Probably more than that.
probably more
double
than
now.
that.
I
Probably
don't
maybe
know.
more than that. I don't even know.
600.
So if you think about instances of eating times
Right.
that many million
That's
people,
not even a fraction of a fraction.
Yeah, that's like not even a full like point.
but
fraction point.
it's just like anything. But it's the same as anything else. Like, are you going to be sitting there cooking your chicken and go like, and not double check it because you're like because of that because you're like, ah man, statistically this is fine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Probably not. No, I will. To come back to it though, I will say if you're in Oklahoma and you have a chance to go to Charleston's, please
Yeah.
order the pork chops medium. They are juicy
Oh, yeah.
and
Okay.
delicious.
They're
Don't look
perfect.
at it. I've only ordered the medium, and they're
Yeah.
amazingly good.
Right. Don't let them overcook it. Like,
Yeah. The main
Mhm,
thing is
mhm.
pork just
No.
overcooks really fast, and so leaving it
True.
medium allows it to, when they pull it off the flame, it's going to cook a little bit longer, just as it's resting, and so that just keeps it from just drying out on you too fast.
you got to rest your meat, man. You got to rest it.
It's
No, I'll
Unless
tell you
that
what was
moisture
fun.
soaked
for
back
real.
in.
It's crucial.
Well, what was funny to me was 42 now. I've heard my entire life about trichinosis, right, from
Yeah.
pork. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
For real.
And I've heard that my whole life. And when I was eating with someone, I can't remember who, at Charleston's, and I was like, medium. And they said, like what you guys did, it's so rare. Like there haven't been that many cases in like the last, 20, 30 years.
Mhm.
I didn't fact check it, but for whatever reason in my brain, I'm like, oh, okay, it's probably fine then. No, that's a curious thing to me that my whole life I've believed something and one person tells me something and just because I wanted to eat that, I was fine with
You're
it.
like, you know what? I'm willing to push the envelope there a little bit.
Yeah.
I really like that food. And you
it's
know what? And I invite you to eat it with me. Let's grok together.
Yes.
Are you guys old enough to remember
Old one.
the deal when like early 80s or mid 80s there was like a thing with applesauce? Do you guys remember this?
I don't recall
Mm-mm.
this. No.
What happened?
It like wrecked my life. Like my mom wouldn't let me eat applesauce for like a month because
Why
of
is
like
that?
some kind of scare.
Was there like a recall or something?
Probably some kind of thing, but like my whole life,
I don't
I've been
remember that.
like vaguely scared of applesauce. Like,
That's funny.
like it
I
looks
love
good,
applesauce.
but
All right, last segment. You guys ready?
Let's go.
let's do it.
Something old, something new is the name of this segment.
All right.
Music, TV, movies, live performances. Why don't you kick us off, Mick? What's something old you've enjoyed recently and something new you've enjoyed recently?
Old recently. All right, Christopher, you're going to love this. Recently, just got back into Bush's 16 Stone album. All right.
Yes.
Machine Head, Glycerine, like all of those songs, Come Down, like all of them. Just recently, like the whole album is spectacular. From
Alien
from top to bottom is good.
That's a good album. I've listened to it recently, like start to finish.
Yes.
And I'm somewhat surprised because I'm not like a Gavin Rossdale, like I don't think he's Bob Dylan. You know what I mean?
No.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow that album is special on its own.
It really is. And you think about like studio albums of theirs, I don't know that anything ever matched that.
I don't think I ever listened to anything.
No, I mean, their second album after that was everybody was so excited about it.
Razorblade Suitcase.
Yeah, it did.
Good one.
It's a good album.
Suitcase.
It's a good album, but it did not. Nothing ever matched to 16 Stone. I think as far as popularity goes and things like that. So they peaked early. So that's something old recently. Something new. New show on Netflix. The Tourist that I started watching. Really good. That actor Jamie Dornan, he's kind of the lead. Really, really good show. It's based. The first season's there's 2 seasons. First season's filmed mostly in Australia. Pretty good. Kind of that murder mystery. There's some amnesia kind of all up in there. It's pretty good. He loses his memory, kind of trying to figure all that stuff out. Just recently started watching that because I'm on spring break. Because I'm a public educator and spring break is a real big deal. So there's my old and new. One album, one television show.
I like it. Thanks, Mick. How about you, Kenzie?
You bet.
Like we recently ditched cable and got the YouTube TV, and the show that just has really like I've rediscovered it is Friends. And I know that's sort of the popular thing to say right now, like because they've done their and like mixed girls watch Friends and I
16,
but like
14.
honestly, and I'm saying this from like the bottom of my heart, like I am appreciating that show in a way I never did before, like just from just pure comedic like timing. And I never thought like that these were great actors or anything. Like I loved Friends like everyone else in the late 90s, but I never thought like, you know what I mean? Like and maybe it's just my age getting at me, but like I will sit in bed at night and laugh myself silly watching that show in a way I never did. So I don't know. That's my something old. And I guess sticking on shows, something new. Gosh, I don't even know what I watch that's new anymore. Newer than that Seinfeld's not newer than that, is it? They're both old.
They're both must-see TV on Thursday nights.
Because the other thing I only watch now is Seinfeld.
Any new music?
No, we did that last time.
True. I don't know if there's anything you'd stumbled onto.
No. I'm just going to say Friends.
Okay.
And Jake Scott. Since we're at the lake, I will say Jake Scott. So Haley and I went to see Ben what is the guy's name? Ben Rector.
Oh, yeah,
live last summer. Because Haley loves Ben Rector, and I've always liked Ben Rector. We saw him live, and I have a new respect for Ben Rector, but he's not going to be my something new. It's actually Jake Scott, a guy who opened up for him. And I love Jake Scott. We hate Eloise and I have this one album that every time we ride in the golf cart here at the lake, we listen to Jake Scott. It's the 20 something. I can't think of what the name of the album is, but
was it Ben Rector who opened up for Need to Breathe when we saw him in Austin?
No, that was
Matt Kearney.
Yeah.
No, sorry, different guy. My bad. I like Matt Kearney.
Ben Rector though is I mean I'm going to tell you right now. I think Ben Rector is the Paul McCartney.
Whoa, Nelly!
I'm not, you know what? You know what though? When you guys said "whoa," I didn't even like blink because
you did not.
You can listen to their like catalogs and just decide for yourself who you connect to.
So you mean Paul McCartney post Beatles then?
I guess
it's like a solo artist, songwriter,
or anything he wrote with the Beatles. I guess I don't know.
Okay,
I'm not a big Beatles fan.
Ben, if you're listening, and I hope you will
one day.
This guy really likes your music.
This guy,
he likes
the Beatles too,
air, my man.
I like singer-songwriters.
It's true. I like those types of guys too.
Good deal.
And Ben's from Oklahoma, so
I didn't know that.
He's from the great state of, right?
Yeah.
All right, Bo Gatlin.
It's on you, buddy.
Hold on. Let's stick on this for a minute.
Okay.
Oklahoma doesn't get enough shout outs.
No.
I'm from Oklahoma. I live in Houston, Texas now. But let's rattle them off. Garth Brooks.
Excellent.
Vince Gill.
Oh.
Reba.
Toby Keith.
Sky Point.
Toby
Keith.
Right out here in our neck of the woods this weekend. American Idol.
You're talking about Blake Shelton?
Carrie Underwood.
Oh, Carrie Underwood. Carrie Underwood. Right up the road
we're just right down the street from Shakota, Oklahoma.
Yep. Blake Shelton.
We got Ben Rector. How about Blake Shelton? Loosely, Kings of Leon.
Well, yeah.
Norman guys, right?
Well, no.
But they lived in
Tahina, or what's it called? The Talahina?
Yeah, they lived in Oklahoma. They're not born in Oklahoma.
They claim it.
But they claim they're like huge Sooner fans.
Their dad was like a pastor or something.
Yeah,
fans.
Massive fans. Have you heard Mustang? Have you heard their new song?
No.
Not yet.
It's pretty good.
No.
I don't like the music.
I like Kings, though.
I do like the KOL. They're pretty good.
Follow
Wheels.
How about Tulsa. We got to go with Hanson. Can't forget Hanson.
Absolutely.
Bop. And come on, keep going. We got some more people here. Flaming Lips. Oklahoma City.
OKC. Let's go.
See them with Weezer and
in September.
We could have stopped with Garth.
We really could have stopped.
Weezer.
What about
Weezer? Shout out to you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some go back even further though. What's the guy played trumpet, jazz player?
The white guy?
Yep.
Chet Baker?
Nope.
He is from Oklahoma though.
Oh, that's who. Chet Baker.
Chet Baker.
Yeah, he was like a drug addict. He's from look it up. He's from freaking Yale.
He is from Yale as
Oklahoma?
Is.
Yeah,
right up the road from our hometown.
Right up the road from
Jim Thorpe is from Yale.
Jim Thorpe.
Born in Yale. Wow.
I think Jim Thorpe's like left foot is from Yale, but
okay.
Yeah.
Well, still two famous people from Yale, Oklahoma. Amazing.
What are the odds of that?
Yeah. I love Chet Baker. I can't believe I didn't think of his name.
All right, let me give you my old and my new.
Okay,
All right. It's Sunday, so a little bit of church music.
I am going to give one shout out to Wanda Jackson. She's from Oklahoma. I just forgot about her.
Know that.
Wanda Jackson, who helped launch some of Elvis's career back in the day, and in the whole rockabilly scene when he was kind of get going. Yeah, she lived
deep cut. Mick Hoggett.
Yeah, Wanda Jackson. Cut. Big shout out.
I'll have to go look her up.
Yep.
Okay. Old. It's Sunday. I'm into some church music today, so you guys will like this. 1994. Delirious, Cutting Edge 1 and 2.
What?
The track is Lead Me.
Oh,
You guys got to go back and listen. The slide guitar on that song. The tremolo on the guitar on that song.
Stoogie. Literally today at church, in between like services, talking about guitar with my other guitar player dude, talking about Stoogie, like literally talking about the tone, the like, hey, he only ran mono back then, like and I never sat and listened to their tone and was like, gosh, man, like it's just not that wide. Like it's just not that immersive.
Yeah. That's
incredible.
if you don't listen to Christian music at all, you still owe it to yourselves.
Matter.
Anyone listening to go listen to Lead Me by Delirious. It holds
anything
up.
Delirious.
All right, new is an album called Manna. Artist is Chris Renzema.
No,
I might be saying his name wrong.
Just found this. How do you spell
found
Manna?
this today. It's Renzema. Just found this today on Spotify. This whole album is amazing. It's called Manna. Manna. So good.
After all these years. We'll check it out.
Yeah,
okay.
It's good. Well, I think that wraps up episode 1. Thanks for sticking with us.
Man, I hope you guys
enjoyed. Any final words?
No, man, it's been a lot of fun. Looking forward to putting a little more content out, and hope you guys enjoy. Man, leave us a comment, 5 stars, follow along, enjoy. If you ever want to hear us talk about something, man, you can put it in there. We'll talk about it. Shoot. Nothing's sacred.
That's the plan.
So,
here. Captain?
I love it. I'm here for it.
We're going to be on all the platforms, right?
All the platforms.
Yeah, baby.
Check us out. Stick with us. Stay real, stay cool. And when the tide turns, we'll be there. This show was not written or produced, but was co-hosted by Mick Hoggett, Christopher Kinsey, and Bo Gatlin. Drive safe. If you're cleaning the house, keep at it.
Love you guys.
Peace.